Thank you guys for your patience on our technical difficulties, but we finally got it. So, good evening, everyone, and thank you all for coming to tonight's special presentations. Tonight, I'm happy to announce and recognize the deputies and classified employees of the quarter for first and second of 2023. Both deputies and classified employees from our Riverside Sheriff's Office are second to none, truly exemplifying service above self. Today, we honor 4 very special individuals, each one making our community a safer and better place to live. Working with the Riverside Sheriff's Office, I know how difficult some can be. Some days can be, not some deputies. Maybe. Thankfully, we have deputies and classified employees like this that make the most of their days, giving us, the public, that much more peace of mind. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce the deputies and classified employees of first and second quarter of 2023. So when I call your name, can you please join me? And then we'll ask your families to come up after. Deputy Gregory Horta. CSO Jessica Naranjo. Deputy Matt Allen. Congrats, congrats. And CSO Marlon Garcia. Thank you. All right, these exemplary people have made an impact not in just their jobs and general assignments, but also within the culture at the station. Having made the right moves and being the best candidate out of the staff population at the size of the Moreno Valley Station, Deputies Horta and Allen, CSOs Naranjo and Garcia, you have my respect, and I tip my hat with your achievements. Thank you very much. Would anybody like to say anything? You guys can come up here. There you go. There you go.
I want to thank my wife and my kids, my parents, the rest of my family for supporting me, and everyone I work with, the deputies, my peers, investigators, the sergeants, the lieutenant, and the captain for supporting me and letting me do what I love to do, and the recognition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you to Captain, Lieutenant Boss, Sergeant Powell, of course, and the rest of the motivated deputies out there, and to my wife and kids, I love you. Thank you.
Just want to thank my family who was able to make it out here, to my team all the way back there who keep me busy. Thank you to the station administration and the city council. Thank you.
First and foremost, I want to thank God for this opportunity, for the opportunity to work with the Moreno Valley Sheriff's Station, and for my sergeants, my corporals, my lieutenants, just everybody in general. And we have an amazing, amazing captain, so thank you.
Thank you guys very much, and well deserved. The Moreno Valley Station is a very large station within our county, and you guys are 4 people that have been recognized for first and second quarter, so thank you guys very much.
Thank you, sir.
Let's go ahead and get their pictures taken real quick. Stay here, we're gonna get Kenny. Do you want me out, Kenny?
No, you're good. You got prettier face.
Great, thank you.
Guys from us.
Thank you, Captain. We're going to continue with our special presentations with Councilmember Shaylinda Bernard.
Ready? Okay. All right. So for our second presentation of the night, we'd like to recognize the month of September as National Preparedness Month. The City of Moreno Valley prioritizes the safety of our residents. To that end, the City Council stands with the Office of Emergency Management to encourage our residents to be proactive and prepare for emergencies before they occur. Accepting this proclamation are two of our most valued employees who strive and take pride in their mission to properly inform and prepare the public for emergencies. Our division manager over the Office of Emergency Management, Miss Diana Rocket, and Chief Park from Fire, would you two please join me? Okay. Thank you, guys. Residents may find numerous helpful resources through the Office of Emergency Management and at ready.gov to identify local partners to build neighborhood teams and set goals to increase the likelihood that our neighbors, friends, and family will have the necessary tools and plans to minimize the impact of disasters or emergencies in our community. This year's theme for National Preparedness Month, which is a Take Control in 1, 2, 3, which looks to properly prepare older adults who are disproportionately affected by all natural hazards. The City Council hereby proclaims September as National Preparedness Month. Okay, bear with me because we're rushing through this. Whereas the Federal Emergency Management Agency, also known as FEMA, created National Preparedness Month to encourage Americans to take steps to prepare for emergencies in their homes, businesses, schools, and communities. And whereas the City of Moreno Valley is proud to participate in National Preparedness Month to further highlight the need for personal and workplace preparedness, and whereas the City of Moreno Valley has the potential to be affected by natural and man-made hazards, such as wildfires, floods, disastrous winds, transportation emergencies, hazardous materials, and prolonged power outages. And whereas the Moreno Valley Fire Department Office of Emergency Management, also known as OEM, works year-round to provide free education and training to residents and businesses on ways to prepare for food, respond to, and recover from disasters. And whereas residents must take a proactive approach to building a family disaster kit, establishing a plan and identifying how they will stay informed during disasters. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that on behalf of the Mayor and the City Council of the City of Moreno Valley, and on behalf of its residents and staff, does hereby recognize September 2023 as National Preparedness Month. Chief Park or Miss Diana, do either of you have any comments?
Just a brief one, thank you. Preparedness is for everybody, so if you haven't already been to the city's website, please go to the city's website, look for the Office of Emergency Management tab, and sign up for Alert MoVal so that we can provide you information and early notification if there's an emergency. And thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you, Council.
Who wants to hold it?
And for our final presentation of tonight, for our final special presentation, we would like to do something new. This is the first proclamation of its kind, and the City of Moreno Valley is honored to be part of something bigger than itself. California has a rich and storied history, one that goes further than arrival of the Spanish Empire or the implementation of the Manifest Destiny and the United States expansion. Native Americans have inhabited the entirety of California for the last 10,000 years, from the redwood forests on our northern coast to the valleys and hills of our great Southwest. With that being said, it is an honor to be presenting Native American Day, along with Mr. Jack Lugo, who works with and serves the California Native American Caucus Legislature under Assemblymember Ramos of District 40. Thanks for joining me. I'll read some lines off the proclamation. Whereas California Native American Day is being celebrated annually on the fourth Friday in September, and with the day serving as an important opportunity to honor the rich cultural heritage and contributions and resilience of Native Americans throughout our state's history, and whereas the city of Moreno Valley is proud to participate in the statewide recognition of California Native American Day, offering a chance to educate the community about the diverse California Native American people. And whereas California Native American communities have made significant contributions to the growth, development, and progress in the city of Moreno Valley and the entire Southern California area through mediums such as tradition, art, language, and medicine. Whereas in recognizing California Native American Day, we are actively fostering a greater understanding and appreciation of the historical and contemporary issues faced by California Native American communities. And now, therefore, let it be proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Moreno Valley, on behalf of its citizens and staff, do hereby proclaim and recognize September 22nd as California Native American Day. Mr. Lugo, would you like to share a few words?
Can I take this off?
You can just squeeze here.
Okay, thanks. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jack Lugo. I'm a field representative for Assemblymember James Ramos of the 45th District. He's the first Native American to be elected into the California State Assembly, so that's a pretty big deal. California has the highest concentration of Native Americans in the entire nation. I myself am a member of the Moreno Band of Mission Indians. I'd like to thank the City Council and the City of Moreno Valley for extending this proclamation to us. Friday, September 22nd is California Native American Day, so be sure to celebrate. This weekend is the Morongo Powwow right next to the casino, so if you guys want to enjoy some good food and culture and some good music and cool regalia, go ahead and come out and enjoy. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, it's for you. We're going to take a little picture. You guys want to come down? We're going to move over. They're going to come down and join us.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for that. That concludes our special presentations for this evening. Give us about 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll start our general meeting. Thank you.
He saw me get up and he ran out the door. Yeah, we got a whole at least we got some. Fish tacos for dinner.
I saw you left right after. Well, happy beaches.
I just snagged it. Good evening and welcome to our regular City Council meeting. Before we do get started, I do want to just briefly mention, of course, I'm not here in the meeting in person. I am attending via teleconference, so I will read a little bit more information here as I go into the script, but just for anyone that's wondering why you can hear me and I'm not there in person, it's because I am participating via teleconference for this meeting. So with that, welcome this evening to our regular City Council meeting, the Moreno Valley Community Services District City as successor agency for the Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Moreno Valley Housing Authority, Moreno Valley Public Financing Authority, and the Board of Library Trustees. I now call this regular meeting to order at 6 p.m. and today's date, 6:10 p.m. and today's date is September 19th, 2023. Now, for the teleconferencing information, for the public's information and for public disclosure, at this time I'm going to share some information about the teleconference. So Mayor Cabrera's teleconference location is at the DoubleTree by Hilton in Sacramento. The address is 2001 Point West Way in Sacramento, California, 95815 in the Feather River Conference Room. The teleconference location will be accessible to the public to participate in the meeting. So with that, we will go ahead and move into the Pledge of Allegiance, and if my colleagues there on the council, maybe Mayor Pro Tem, could lead us in the pledge, followed by the invocation. If you could please remain standing for the invocation given by Pastor Israel Carlos of Apostolic Assembly.
Please stand and place your right hand over your heart. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing while I pray. The pastor is not here. Is the pastor here in the audience? Okay, thank you. Please bow. Dear Heavenly Father, God, Lord, please look after this meeting tonight. Please be present with us as we make decisions for our city. Please be present with all those that are watching, Lord, that they're interested in what goes on in their city. And I pray that the decisions that we make are for the benefit of the city and not the benefit for us, Lord. I pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. Appreciate that. And with that, next on our agenda is a roll call, please. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Baca Santa Cruz.
Here.
Councilmember Marcus.
Here.
Councilmember Bernard.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Delgado.
Here, ma'am.
And Mayor Cabrera.
Here. Staff introductions, please.
Jane Halstead, City Clerk.
Patty Rodriguez, Senior Deputy City Clerk.
Steve Quintanilla, City Attorney.
Mike Lee, City Manager.
Brian Mohan, Assistant City Manager, Chief Financial Officer, City Treasurer.
Michael Lloyd, Assistant City Manager for Development.
Sean Kelleher, Community Development Director.
Melissa Walker, Director of Public Works.
Jeremy Bubnick, Director of Parks and Community Services.
Ken Reichel, Chief Police.
And Jesse Park, Fire Chief.
Thank you very much, staff. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. Today is remote. A reminder that the city is currently offering Spanish translation services. If anyone is interested in this feature, la ciudad actualmente ofrece servicios de traducción al español. Si alguien está interesado, por favor, nos avisan. Before we hear public comments this evening, I ask and encourage everyone participating to keep their comments respectful toward others, especially toward the individuals speaking. I embrace and support the First Amendment right to free speech, including everyone's right to speak at this meeting, and to share their views about issues concerning our city. But we can be more productive by being civil and respectful toward one another in this meeting. Finally, I ask that speakers bear in mind that comments will be limited for each speaker, and I encourage everyone to refrain from duplicating comments already made by others, other than to note that you agree or disagree with the prior comments. In order to preserve the meeting decorum, council and staff will not respond during public comment. Any council comments or questions to staff may be addressed during the council closing comments. And this brings us to public comments on matters that are not on the agenda, and each speaker will be allowed a total of 3 minutes to comment on any and all items which are not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak on non-agenda items?
We have 3 requests to speak. I'll call up the 3 speakers. Daryl Terrell, followed by Sam Martinez and Christopher Baca.
Good evening. My name is Daryl Terrell. I live here in Moreno Valley. I'm not here speaking as a planning commissioner, but a resident. But this needs to be said. You know, when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke at the March on Washington, he described a fierce urgency of now. He reminded a divided nation that we need one another and that we are stronger when we march together. We cannot walk alone, he said. With all the challenges we face in this community, in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., unity is the great need of the hour, especially in our community. Some may see it as a foolish fantasy. Some will say there will never be no unity in this community. This also has to be said. The unity I'm talking about is not a false unity that papers over our differences, but a new sense of community in which we are bound together as one people in one community, striving to see one another in each other, to stand in the other person's shoe, to see through their eyes, to understand their pain, to fight against poverty, even if we are well off, to show compassion towards that immigrant family, with the knowledge that most of us are only one generation away, removed from similar hardships. And I know that it's not easy to stand in someone else's shoes. It's not easy to see past our own differences. We have all encountered this in our own lives. However, I believe deeply that we cannot solve the challenges in this city unless we solve them together. Unless we understand that we may have different stories, but we have common hopes, that we may think differently, and we may not come from the same place, but we love this city. That unites us. And without unity, there is no peace, only bitterness and fury, no progress, only exhausting outrage. That's why we must remind ourselves that we're not adversarial, but as neighbors. We can treat each other with dignity and respect. Despite all our differences, just how much we share. And again, a common love for this city, a bond that will never be broken. Never doubt what makes us Moreno Valleyans. It's about our capacity to live up to the creed as old as our nation's founding. E pluribus unum, that out of many we are one. And as long as we stand up for one another, speak out for what is right, and stay true to these ideals, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard, then our best days will always be ahead. And this is our moment of challenge. Unity is our path forward. Thank you.
Sam Martinez, followed by Christopher Baca and Bob Palomares.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Mayor of Moreno Valley. My complaint is I've lived here since '97, my parents since '84. My kids played ball at Morrison Park a long time ago, and I raised heck about it then, the bathrooms, the handicap, all that, and nothing ever got done. Now my great-grandkids are playing ball there. Nothing's been done about it. You go there at 9:30 in the morning, the bathroom's full of urine, you can't go in there. There's not enough parking. You guys own that whole field to the right, about 4 acres. You could extend all that parking. Still nothing's got done. Besides that, I'm a retired union boss of the Ironworkers Local 509 Shopmans. 30 years I put in the union. I'm retired now, so I have plenty of time. I brought this up several times in the past to Parks and Recs. Nothing ever got done. So now I'm going to go through all my procedures properly, and then if it doesn't get resolved, I will pick up petitions and then go to the Americans with Disability Act about those bathrooms. The handicapped have to sit on top of the hill with binoculars to watch their grandkids down below. Nothing's getting done. So if I have to go higher than that, then eventually I will. So hopefully you guys can address this issue, and please take care of it. Thank you guys very much.
The next three speakers are Christopher Baca, Bob Palomares, and Roy Billickard.
Good evening, council, staff, and community. I'm here on behalf of myself. My comments are my own, not influenced by anybody other than myself. With all due respect to the mayoral seat and to the staff and to the city, my comments here are geared at Mr. Ulysses Cabrera on his own behalf, as far as him being an individual, not as the seat of the mayor. So if anything's offensive to you, my apologies in ahead. But I'm here to respond to these allegations that Mr. Cabrera has been making. About the middle of July, I was in New York City. Tell you a little bit about myself. You know, I'm almost 65 years old. I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of family. Some of them happen to live in New York. I have a credit rating of 780. I can get a credit card from Delta Air at the snap of a moment. I don't need handouts. I don't ask for handouts from any city staff or any individual. So what I'm getting at is Mr. Cabrera keeps insisting that I was taken or the city paid for my vacation in New York City. And that's my point here. It's like, what exactly, Mr. Cabrera, are you trying to stir up by bringing me into your shenanigans, into your nonsense, into your BS? I seen you at the NALEO conference, and I approached you and I cordially said hello to you, and lo and behold, before I knew it, Facebook was, you know, up and everything. Chris Baca's in New York City. Oh my God, the city paid for it. You know, how stupid do you think the staff is? How stupid do you think I am? And how ridiculous of a person do you think Elena would be to try to buy me a ticket from the city to go to New York City, as though I can't afford my own ticket, as though, please, you know, this is just so ridiculous. Mr. Cabrera, you have a lot of nerve and you got a lot of closets behind you. You know, let's not get rated X here and say the truth as to why you're sitting on that seat. Okay, everyone knows why you're there, because of Exian and because of Victoria and because of myself. Okay, there's no other reason why you're there. You're just a kid selling tamales on the corner. Fine, nothing bad with that, but, you know, stop attacking people that have helped you, and you're there because of us. So quit trying to hide the fact of why you're there. And I expect an apology, not only to myself, but to the staff and to Elena and to everybody else you've, you know, attacked over the years of being there on your seat that you really don't belong at. Thank you.
The next three speakers are Bob Palomares, Roy Billickard, and Pete Billickard.
Good evening, Council. First of all, Chiefs, like always, thank you. I wanted to talk a little bit about the show that was on where Marcus was on, the Fred Flintstone show out there in Redlands or wherever it is, where he was there speaking about an individual that is a second cousin, Dilbert Wilson, also known as Mr. Raul Wilson. And he was accused, him, saying that Mr. Wilson, he was comparing Mr. Wilson to LaDonna Jemson, saying, can you compare a bank robber to a murder? Well, the truth is, Mr. Wilson never committed a murder. What he was talking about was a shooting that happened in 1956 in Los Angeles, where a car salesman was shot. Yes, Mr. Wilson did shoot the man. The man didn't die. But what happened was both of them were in custody. Mr. Wilson was in custody, and the gentleman that was being charged with that shooting. And when they looked at their photographs, they resembled each other. But Mr. Wilson was in the same cell with the guy that was being charged with that shooting. And when he went in front of the judge, you know, I guess talking with the guy, yeah, what are you in here for a while? They're accusing me of shooting a salesman. And, you know, it really bothered Mr. Wilson. He told the judge, I'm the one that did it. I did it. You know, he confessed and he did the time for it. I think he was in Folsom, not exactly sure, you know, because I spoke with Mr. Wilson. He was a good friend of mine. Me and him, he was a hardworking guy. He was an activist for the community, an organizer. That's who he was. Yeah, when it happened in 1956, Mr. Wilson just died a few years back at the age of 83. But Marcus was making it sound like, oh, Victoria Baca's, how did he put it? Victoria Baca's so-called husband. You know, he was trying to hurt somebody, and I know what he was doing. Because I called a family member, one of Mr. Raul Wilson's sons, and asked him, did you give permission? Because David Marcus has made that statement. I got permission from the family to talk about him and this murder that never happened. He was just trying to bring somebody down. That's all. He was trying to hurt somebody. I know who it is. And he says, do you think we would do that, you know, to dishonor my father? He's buried, you know. I said, no, I know you wouldn't. But I just wanted to hear you tell me that, because I know Marcus, he's a liar that keeps giving lies. That's all he does. You know.
The next two speakers are Roy Bleckert and Pete Bleckert.
Well, you can probably thank the crime syndicate for not having the usual players up here to speak. And we are incrementally moving the needle, but as the previous speaker and the next speaker and the late Tom Jarrell, I hope you'll really see the reason why that issue is brought before us, because how do you get to all these meetings at the same time and at this hour of that where everybody's commuting and stuff on top of that? And I just hope you'll really put that on the fast track. Plus, you really need, and I hope you will include it on the next study session, which I hope is not on a Tuesday. Maybe we can move it like our previous mayor did when he didn't want to meet on Valentine's Day. Maybe show a little spirit of what's going on. Your rules and procedures everywhere. Council rules and procedures, staff, the mayor's deal, how you do the agendas, everything needs to be put on the table. And you should put in the ordinance. Every year there's a refresher on this because things change. Members change. All this stuff, it should be an ongoing process, and it should be in there. You look at the crime syndicate and what they're doing today, I believe they even agendize that incorrectly. And this stuff goes on far too often. We had a little fiasco right here, July 9th, 2023. You don't do proper rules and procedures. We got a thing going on in the Congress with the shutdown and stuff. They should be doing, it's been almost 30 years since we did the Defense Department budget and had a debate on that, then the Department of Education and on and on. It's just like you guys. You guys should do the same thing. Everyone, the county and everybody else. You should pass a budget. Okay, let's talk about public safety. Let's talk about the roads. Let's talk about and pass a budget on that in incrementals so we can have a honest and forthright debate and discussion of all the issues. Not just, like they're going to do in the District of Criminals, wait till the last minute and say you got to vote for this or this is going to happen. Far too often, I put down at Riverside the same thing. You should, because we have a deal going on, now a second one, a second DUI official in this jurisdiction has been arrested on DUI, as the reports are. You need to pass an ordinance. Anybody that gets a DUI doesn't get a car allowance, nothing. They're not allowed to drive any vehicles. Do your job, please.
The final speaker is Pete Bleckert.
Well, I'm going to do a little history session here about mayors and how they hate each other. The first two were Snidely Whiplash and the Snake Lady, but I'm going to start with the mayor we have now. I was watching the State of the City deal, and it kind of was amazing that God and the disciple were up there, and God introduced the disciple to do his little presentation, and then the mayor walked off. District 1, District 2, and District 4 got introduced by second best. Amazing, ain't that the hate that we're going on still? He'll have an excuse for that, but I sure didn't miss it. So if you people like the three like sitting at the back of the bus, like I've always had to do when I got up at this damn city council meetings, it's not got some excuse. And if you want to believe that, it was very obvious. Go watch television and see what happened. He stood up there and said, "There's Dave Marquez," and then walked off. And then he did not come back until all the other three spoke, and zoom, he come back up there. "Here I am, God, and I'm here to run the city." That's exactly what happened. So, it's sad that we're going to do it. But I'm going to show you how that worked next time, because I don't have enough time, how the first two mayors did the same damn thing. So history does repeat itself. But it was a lot worse. It was not just hating you three, it was hating me, Ray Tanner, and a whole bunch. So that'll be even more interesting. But I feel sad for you three getting ripped off and sitting in the back of the bus. I know you want to do that. Now, second thing is, last Sunday we had a historical society went out and saw the old Moreno school. That was the first historical building that the city proclaimed to the city. Too bad. I've asked other city council people to come to some of them history meetings. Nobody ever showed up. Only Jesse Molina came 3 times. One sitting up there, I had to ask real nicely, "Would you come?" He did. It was in his district at the time. It's not in his district anymore. So that's the only 2 that would ever come. So you'll see a little history. But there was really, I didn't go to that school. I went to Midland School, which doesn't exist anymore where I went to school. And it was probably as a fancy building as that. But Judy Nieberger hated that building so bad she had it tore down. That's where your library is now. So there's a little history. I don't want to believe me, but I used to say to little Dickie Stu sitting up there, "You might not like what I'm saying, but I lived it and you didn't."
That concludes public comment, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. With that, we will now move to public. If you wish to speak on any items that are on the consent calendar, you will have a total of 3 minutes to comment on all items on the consent calendar. If you wish to comment on any other items on the agenda other than the public hearing calendar, you will have a total of 3 minutes to comment on each item at the time that item is called up for consideration. But if we have a large number of speakers, it may be necessary to reduce the amount of time per speaker to allow the council to complete its business this evening. For public hearing items, each speaker will be provided with at least 5 minutes to provide testimony on each public hearing item. We are now going to move to our joint consent calendars, sections A through E on the agenda. All items listed under the consent calendars, sections A, B, C, D, and E, are considered to be routine in nature and non-controversial, and may be enacted by one motion unless a member of the City Council or any affiliated agency requests that an item be removed for separate action. The motion to adopt the consent calendars is deemed to be a separate motion by each agency and shall be so recorded by the City Clerk. Items withdrawn for report or discussion will be heard after the public hearing items. At this time, and I may need a little bit of help here from my colleagues on the council since I can't actually see you guys, are there any requests to remove any items from the consent calendar for separate action? If you do, please go ahead and speak.
There are none, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So with that, are any council members that would like to make any comments or any questions for staff?
Right now. There are none, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, MPT. With that, we will now go ahead and move into public comments that are on the consent calendar agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak on consent calendar items?
There are no requests to speak, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we will go ahead and close the public comment portion for the consent calendar. And at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve staff's recommendations.
I'll motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion by Mayor Pro Tem and a second by Councilmember Bernard. And for the rest of the meeting, we will be doing voice votes just to make it easier. So at this time, Madam Clerk, if we could please call for a voice vote.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Baca Santa Cruz?
Yes.
Member Bernard?
Yes.
Councilmember Marcus?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Delgado?
Yes.
And Mayor Cabrera?
Yes. So that motion passes unanimously with 5 yeses. Thank you very much. So we will go ahead and move to our next portion on the agenda, which is item F, public hearings. And we will start with F1, which is the Town Center Project Economic Opportunity Summary Report pursuant to Government Code Section 52201. And we have a report from our city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in 1985, the city purchased approximately 56 acres at the corner of Alexandro and Nason. And the purpose of the purchase was to develop a civic center site that we call the Town Center Project. So that was back in 1985. So we'll fast forward to 2019. So in 2019, the City Council had staff send out a request for proposals to develop the Town Center Project. And this RFP was sent out to 9,000 developers. And the RFP identified that economic development was the city's #1 strategic priority for selling and developing the property. Now, the scope of the development of the Town Center project includes a mix of commercial, office, entertainment, hospitality, restaurants, shops, and residential housing, and a variety of public amenities that include public parkland, public open space, public sidewalks, public streets, public art displays, and even a police substation and an innovation town center, technology center, and some other civic uses. So after reviewing the 9,000 RFPs, the city selected Lewis Acquisition LLC, who agreed to purchase the land at its appraised value of $5,600,000. Pursuant to state law as set forth in the government code under section 52201A1, a city or a county or any other jurisdiction may sell property, real property, to create what is called an economic opportunity. However, before we may sell property for an economic opportunity, we had to prepare a summary report, which was prepared for this particular transaction, that demonstrates that the sale and the development of the property will result in providing economic opportunities for the city and its residents. It's set forth in the summary report that's included in your agenda packet and that was posted in the city clerk's office for review. There are three revenue-producing components that are part of this town center project, and they include commercial uses, residential uses, and hotel uses. So together, these three types of uses are going to generate new revenue for the city via property taxes, sales taxes, and transient occupancy taxes, which are what we consider to be a bed tax. And the amount that it's projected to produce is $2 million annually in taxes, and that amount is projected to grow to produce approximately $65 million in tax revenue over a 25-year period. So based on the projected revenue that, based on these numbers that I just provided, and based on the financial analysis that was conducted for the project's projected revenue that was performed by HDL Econ Solutions, staff recommends that the council adopt the resolution approving the summary report and authorizing staff to proceed with the sale of the subject property to Lewis. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, City Attorney. With that, we will now move to council questions of staff. Any council questions, feel free to go ahead and just go ahead and speak, please.
No council questions at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So with that, we will move now to the public testimony. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak on this item?
There are no requests to speak, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. So we will go ahead and close the public hearing.
Mayor,
Item.
actually, we're getting another request coming in right now.
Okay, thank you. And is that for public comment?
Yeah, the speaker is Roy Blackard.
Okay, thank you.
So, as the staff report said, started in 1985, the city bought that property. That was a very interesting deal, and you'll probably hear more of the history on that from Pete. But Any Burger but Nieburger ran a big con on us on that. We paid $3 million for that at the time, which was probably about twice what it was worth. That was probably one of the all-time, in the top 3 of government kerfuffles ever. Probably in the top 3 of the smartest architect engineer, because the city signed a contract that said as soon as one rock is moved, the engineer architect got 100% of their money. That's why it sat for 20 years. That's why it sat dormant. That's why you staff are sitting in this moon rock of a building and we didn't build the civic center like we were supposed to do. I bring this out to further emphasize from all of you to do your due diligence. It was brought out at the crime syndicate at the last meeting of how, man, you're getting the stack of papers right at the end and then you're making a decision. How do you do that? That's where we have the failure. We further experienced that just recently, again, July 9th, 2023, and June 20th, 2023. On June 20th, you ignored and tried to suppress and tried to minimize as much as you could. The wise counsel, one person come up here and told you that was a con. How is that going? Why do we have to do this? Hopefully, maybe, 40 years later, we might be able to turn a grain of sand on that 60 acres, and we might finally get some productive use out of it. And the reason it is it's a failure of public policy. It's why we bring you this stuff. Again, a lot of you, maybe you take it personally, but it's not. It's about on how you, performance. I think there's a little deal about performance going on down the street. All around. And you need to do more diligence in all of this stuff of that. So I don't know what the signals are, but...
You have 2 additional minutes if you want them.
Oh, that's right. This is a 5-minute one. See, you love me so much. You give me an additional 2 minutes to...
I just don't want to get yelled at later.
Who would do that? So, no, but just to wrap it up, that I was basically done with it anyway, but I appreciate the extra time. But no, it's not about criticizing any one individual of it, whether you're in the well or the dais or anywhere else. I think, and part of this all across the board, and what a lot of people, you've heard the speakers come up here before about lots of issues, even here today. Just be very aware and maybe take a little more time. And some of the suggestions you get on this stuff are about making that so we don't make the same mistake that we did with this. Thank you.
Any more speakers?
That concludes public comment.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. So now we will go ahead and close the public testimony portion of this item and move to council deliberation. If desired, would any council members like to make any comments?
There are none at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So with that, we will go ahead and entertain a motion by the council to approve staff's recommendations number 1.
A motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. There is a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, can you please call for a voice vote?
Councilmember Baca Santa Cruz,
Yes.
Councilmember Bernard,
Yes.
Councilmember Marcus,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Delgado,
Yes.
and Mayor Cabrera.
Yes. So that passes unanimously with 5 yeses. That brings us to item G. We don't have any items that were removed from consent. So next is item H, which is general business. And we have item H1, which is the Office of the Mayor and City Council Sponsorship Program. And we have a report from our city clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. The item before you tonight is the Office of the Mayor and City Council Sponsorship Opportunities or Program. The city's annual sponsorship of events and programs is being brought forward for City Council for consideration. The purpose of the policy is to provide local eligible organizations with financial contributions in support of highly regarded programs in our community. And policy 2.13 dictates the criteria that must be met by these requesting organizations. So this policy outlines what must be followed. The sponsorship program has been budgeted for within the 2024/2025 fiscal year budget. And these are the organizations that we're bringing before council. There's one-time annual event sponsorships, and these sponsorships are one-time, and they're historically, they've been, I believe they've been approved before. Then we also have the organizational sponsorship. These are the organizations that staff has recommended to receive funds. So they're listed. I can read them all if you would like. So the recommendation.
I don't think that'll be necessary unless the council wants to go through them, but I don't think it'll be necessary, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Okay. So the grand total is $59,000, almost $60,000, which was budgeted for this item. So the recommendation is that the City Council approve the $60,000 for the Office and Mayor and City Council Sponsorship Program. That concludes my presentation. I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, for the report. Really appreciate that. And with that, next is council questions of staff. Do any council members have any questions for staff?
Jane,
Yes.
it says that the entities would have to meet some kind of criteria. What kind of reporting, or is there any for the, I know the top ones are one-time events, so I'm familiar with what those events are, but the organization sponsorships, is there any reporting back of metrics at all about what they did with the money, how it was used, how it supported the community? Or because it did say that no application would be required because they're budgeted. So what kind of information will we receive to know how this money was spent?
Okay, so they They generally have a package, a general package funds. And historically, I mean, it could be something as simple as advertising, stuff like that.
And if I could chime in here as well, just to add to that, one thing that we might be able to do, and I don't know if the city manager or assistant city managers would like to chime in as well. One thing we can ask of anyone who receives these dollars for sponsorship is invite them to come to our council meeting to report to us how they did spend that money and how many people they served or specifically what it was spent on. But I will stop short of recommending that we require those for reasons that staff can go into. But just something we can definitely add in to this is inviting them essentially voluntarily to come to our council meetings to give reports on how they spent these funds.
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, I'll chime in as well. Is that we've discovered that the rules and regulations of this $60,000 do not require that, but we talked about asking them and encouraging them to come to the council meeting and let us know what they spent the money on. Not required, but to receive money from a city and be cooperative with the city, I think that they would probably be more than happy to do that. So.
But my question is, there's no requirement, so we just give out the money and we have no report back. We don't know what they did, what they bought, how it helped the community at all, what we're investing this money for. There's no report at all that will come to us?
No.
And my understanding in conversations with staff is that the organizations that are on the agenda listed as potential recipients of this funding, it provides a brief description of the services that they provide and what type of work that they do, but essentially it would be pretty much identical to how each council member and myself, when we sponsor someone with discretionary funds, we don't necessarily, there could be a specific thing that it's spent on, that the funds are spent on, but it's not absolutely necessary. So it would be the same type of approach for this funding as well.
Does anybody have any questions from the dais?
I do. So I have some questions because I understand that we're putting together this sponsorship, and this isn't, so there was no application. Is that what I'm hearing correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking is because then I go down in the city sponsorship limitations and amounts, and there is a discussion down here in the actual policy regarding an application process. Page 3 of 4, and it says submit a completed city application for a sponsorship at least 90 calendar days prior to the sponsorship and event. So these aren't events. This is just us for their program. So that's why I think that's what some of the confusion is regarding the sponsorships. So, can we get some clarification?
Councilmember, so you are correct. Policy 2.13 for city sponsorships outlines the procedures, and there is an application process for any particular entity or group of persons that would be seeking sponsorship, whether it be sports groups and or anybody using CRC that needs assistance with event facility fees. But it does also state that that sponsorship application is to be submitted to the city manager. So city manager's office is looking at trying to be a transparent process, because this budget that was approved by you on by this body on 5/2 has $60,000 for sponsorship. And so, in talking with the city manager's office and the city council's office, it was determined that it would be best brought forward via a package in which the mayor and mayor pro tem are, in essence, asking and seeking your approval of these particular funds to these particular entities and various events.
Let me chime in too as far as this. I didn't really understand the process as well, but once we got into it, we had $60,000 budgeted for this particular. It's actually just give money. It's to help our local nonprofits, our local sponsors, events and stuff like that. So we already do it. We already apply monies to a lot of these events that we go to. We have a $60,000 budget. We go through all the items and then start picking local nonprofits to give the money to, basically. So the money is not expected to come back to us. The only thing that we're hoping for is some of the fruits of our labor is that they come and tell us what good they did with the money. This money is in the budget for exactly this. As far as the application process, I think that the application process is just to let us know that they're interested in the money.
Yes, and just to additionally add, as this particular procedure tonight and leading up to tonight is outside of the actual policy application, what staff had actually done in research and review of the various sponsorships in which City Council has previously approved, as well as looking at the discretionary reporting over the last year. And so a lot of these items are items that have, one, already been sponsored, in which the city is sponsoring at a certain level, and two, the discretionary reporting that was previously at each of your approvals or requests was looked at, and those particular entities added to this. And so those are the two categories that council office staff has looked at and researched and is bringing forward through the mayor and mayor pro tem.
And if I can add on to that as well, that when this was brought to us, because it was approved in the budget that the council approved earlier this year, the $60,000, we had to decide, well, how is this funding going to be spent? And one of the things that we talked about was actually the topic of putting requirements in place in terms of reporting and things of that nature. But the reason why we didn't go in that direction was because I'll use CDBG as an example. The CDBG process, although we get more applications than we actually fund, we have more applications than we can actually fund for those applications. The requirements are so strict and stringent that a lot of the organizations that you see on this list on the agenda tonight, they effectively are disqualified from getting the funding because it's so strict and requires so many requirements. So to make it easier to get this funding out to those organizations that are serving our community, we collectively decided it's probably a better idea not to have so many requirements and restrictions on that funding, because these are organizations that are already doing work on the ground, and almost all of them that are on this list already receive funding from discretionary sponsorships or council sponsorships. So I will reiterate the point that Brian just made right now, that to make this equitable and to make sure that we're sharing amongst the various council districts, Mayor Pro Tem, I, and staff actually pulled who has received discretionary funding from all the council members, and then we picked, from each council district and each council member to make this as fair as possible for every council member. So just a little bit of additional information there.
And from the CDBG perspective, or the HUD entitlement perspective, I'd just like to add that there are several community-based organizations that are on here that have potentially applied in the past and have not been successful, and or that myself and or other financial and management services employees or staff have talked to and just stated that they would not be eligible because of various deficiencies in their ability to meet the very stringent HUD requirements.
Any further questions from the dais?
And how were the amounts determined? Which group got which and how much?
It was based on the sponsors that we all gave to our district requests. And then we just added up and rounded up to even numbers, I guess, yeah. So it was based on, a lot of the stuff was pulled from our discretionary fund report, and then we just rounded up instead of rounding down.
And for the section of the actual sponsorship of events, it's based on past approved sponsorship at that particular level.
In addition, I'll add to that, if you look at the past one-timers, those are different levels of gold, silver, whatever sponsorship we go to an event, and we'll ask for we'll sponsor a particular table and whatever level it is. So those are the amounts that those levels require.
And if I might add, this is going to be an annual process in which council will then determine sponsorship going forward.
Any other questions from the dais? No other questions.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you, staff, for that report. So next up is public comment on this item. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak on this item?
Yes, Mayor, we have 3 public commenters. Russell Schaefer, followed by Luis Palomares and Bob Palomares.
Mayor and city sponsorship programs. Moreno Valley Unified School District Students of the Month, $5,000. Do they still need the money? Since they are giving money to SBX, money that can go for this program. My community band, Wind Symphony, $5,000. I would like to see more advertising to all the citizens that can attend. Feels like this is just a concert for a select group of residents who can regularly attend. Do they still receive the conference center fee of charge? Maybe they should try to do fundraisers for their group. They shouldn't always be dependent on city funds. They need to make sure all of the residents know about this ahead of time. Thank you.
Luis Palomares, followed by Bob Palomares. Bob Palomares, then?
Good evening again. Well, it's great that we have the money, first of all, and I'm sure all of those people that are on that list do a good job. I couldn't read all of them, but I kind of, and you answered my question about how you determine, who gets how much. So I understand that. But building up lives, hole in the wall, and rising stars, I kind of think that maybe they need a little extra because they work with the people that are on the ground, the homeless every day, And I just wish we would give them a little bit more. I looked real quick and I seen building up lives, 1,000. And I guess the rest, hole in the wall and rising stars, would get the same. But maybe next time, if this is already a done deal, you can give them a little bit more because they do a great job. Thank you.
That concludes public comment, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. That brings us to council deliberation if desired. At this time, if any council members would like to make any comments, please feel free to do so.
We don't see any up here. We have one comment.
I've seen a lot of the work that these organizations do in the community. I believe they're doing good work. I would just like to rewrite our policy so that next year when we're in this same situation that we are requiring applications and some follow-up. I'd like to see each one of these organizations come to us over the next year before the next application and give us an update. I do know their work. I'm familiar with most of them. So I'm in support of providing these sponsorships. I just would like to see more accountability, more reporting, more metrics about what this tax money is doing for our community.
I see no more comments.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. And so with that, we will go ahead and entertain a motion to approve staff's recommendations.
All motion to approve?
And
Second.
I'll second. I heard a second there, I think, at the same time, but there is a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, can you please call for a voice vote?
Councilmember Baca Santa Cruz,
Yes.
Councilmember Bernard,
Yes.
Councilmember Marcus,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Delgado,
Yes.
and Mayor Cabrera.
Yes. That passes unanimously with 5 yeses as well. Thank you very much, staff. Appreciate the help there, and thank you to the council as well. Next, we have item I, which is reports, and this evening we have, it looks like 3 reports for our regional boards and commissions, and first up is RCTC, and I'll be providing the report for RCTC this evening. So tonight I'm providing updates from the Riverside County Transportation Commission meeting on September 13th. The Commission heard a presentation of the Integrated Traffic Management System and awarded an agreement to Transmax for comprehensive professional services for the Interstate 15 Smart Freeway Pilot Project. The Commission also approved the 2024 State Transportation Improvement Program funding distribution among 3 geographic areas in Riverside County. That concludes my report on the last Riverside County Transportation Commission meeting. Next up, we have a report for the Riverside Transit Agency, RTA, and we'll have that report by Councilmember Marquez.
It's okay. Councilmember Marquez's voice is leaving him, so Councilmember Bernard's going to do the report, Mayor. So
Okay, thank you.
tonight I'm providing updates from the RTA Board Administration and Operations Committee meeting held on September 6th. The committee heard a presentation about the Curial Studies results for the workers' compensation and liabilities programs and recommended approval of the full board of directors. The committee also heard a presentation regarding the proposed custom shelters in Mead Valley as part of the agency's bus stop strategic policy. That concludes my report on the last RTA Board Administration and Operations Committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. And the third and final report is for the Western Riverside Council of Governments, WRCOG, by Councilmember Baca Santa Cruz.
Good evening. My report is for the Western Riverside Council of Governments joint meeting of the Executive Committee held on Monday, September 11th. I attended this meeting. Items covered at the WRCOG Executive Committee meeting included an update on the TUMP collections for fiscal year 22-23. Development activity remains strong throughout WRCOG's subregion, with residential and industrial projects generating the majority of the revenue. That concludes my report.
Thank you. And that'll conclude item I. Next, actually, item 1, excuse me. Item I2 is employee association reports. Do we have any report tonight?
There are none.
Thank you. Next is item I3, the famous city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. Just 3 items tonight. There was a speaker earlier that was talking about some of the park improvements. So just a reminder, previously the City Council approved the historic $6 million investment into our park rehab. And as part of that plan, all the parks are getting some form of rehabilitation. And residents can find out what's happening at moval.org/park plan. And we're hopeful that by the next year, we will have all the improvements done as part of that $6 million expenditure. The second item is that as we move forward on park planning, we continue to have the Park Master Plan committee meetings. So the next one is going to be on September 26th, Tuesday from 6 p.m. That's actually at the CRC. We'd love to hear your voices and what you'd like to see for the future of our parks. These committee meetings are very, very important to really plan for future development for our parks. And finally, this is something the council has always been pushing for, is these free dump days. So our next one is the free dump day is October 14th from 6 a.m. to 12 noon. This is at the county landfill. And as part of our negotiations, there is a limitation, so they only allow no more than 612 vehicles, and hopefully all those 612 are Moreno Valley vehicles. So please do take advantage of this free amenity for our residents. That concludes the city manager's report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. City Manager. Really appreciate that good information, and definitely hope that our residents will take advantage of those opportunities that you just mentioned. So appreciate that report as always. And that brings us to our closing comments from council members, and we will start first with District 1 Council Member Baca Santa Cruz.
Good evening. Quite a few comments from the public today. The first item I'd like to speak about is the teleconferencing that the mayor is doing. We have never done teleconferencing in the past. Certain council members have even missed meetings due to sickness or childcare or some other excuses. That was never offered to them. The public, Mr. George Haig, asked if he could speak to us through teleconference because of his health. That was not considered. And now the mayor is deciding to have a meeting away from here. It's understandable that we're going to be away. I'm going to be away one time. I'm going to be sick, or I'm going to be on vacation, or I'm going to be at a conference. But I'll be absent. I won't be trying to do the meeting from somewhere else. I think it's special. He thinks that the rules don't apply to him. Well, they do. I'm for teleconferencing. I think the public should be able to call in if they need to, if they're not able to. But I really like to make sure that it's equitable, that everybody's able to enjoy these privileges. It's not just for one person. It should be available to everybody. So I'm very disappointed in the fact that we are holding this meeting with special conditions for the mayor. Also, I don't know what room he's in or who's paying for that room, but I'd sure like to know. Next, yes, we did have our State of the City, and it was obvious to me too. In fact, our rehearsals were separate as well, so that's one thing. Next, one of the D3 has been speaking, I guess, about my family, and yeah, Mr. Raul Wilson is related to D3, but he's my family, he's my father. He's the reason that I'm sitting up here. He was the organizer of our association. We were never involved like we are. Yeah, he did spend some time in jail, and you could know that because it was in the press enterprise. He never shied away from that. He didn't deny it. And to try and use that to shame me, I'm not ashamed. That was my father, and that was his past, and I'm proud of it. And you can talk about him all you want, but I will continue to claim him. So it doesn't bother me at all. Again, with the traveling, I would never use city funds for my personal use. I didn't use it for my family member, and obviously that was addressed there. And finally, we lost a very active community member recently, Mr. Tom Gerald. He's been coming to these meetings longer than I have, and that's been over a decade. So we're going to close the meeting in his honor, but I just like to thank everybody, city staff, friends, commissioners that came to visit him, our council, at the hospital. This was a big loss for our city, and it's really hurting a lot of us. So there'll be a ceremony on the 20th of October at the Elks Lodge. So that will be open to anybody who would like to pay their respects. And so just remember Tom and all that he did, and he really loved this city, and that seems to be what everybody thinks about when we talk about Tom. It's always the response is, he sure loved Moreno Valley, and so do I. So thank you. That's it.
Next up, we have closing comments, and I believe you might be dealing with some voice issues, but if you would like to, Councilmember Marquez, feel free to give any closing comments at this time.
He passed.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember. Hope you get better there. Take care of yourself. I know there's a lot of things going around right now. It's that time of the year. Next up, we have closing comments from Councilmember Bernard.
First, I'd like to also say it's a little different knowing that we're going to be in here without Tom, kind of still waiting for him to come and walk in and kind of say something. So he's going to be truly missed up here. He was such a staple just to have here at city council meetings. So I'm glad we're closing out in honor of Tom. This past weekend, we had the El Grito event that was well attended. My kids absolutely loved it, and they had fun. And it's an event that I know that our city truly loves and truly likes to come out for. It's one of the premier events. So I would like to thank all the residents that came out. We appreciate it, and it was a lot of fun, and I can't wait for next year's event. I attended the women's conference, women's leadership conference for the County of Riverside, given by Supervisor Spiegel and the Corona Chamber of Commerce, where we heard several different speakers speak about everything from climbing your own version of Mount Everest, which, by the way, I found out to climb Mount Everest takes 60 days. So if you're ever going to climb Mount Everest, please have 2 months of vacation. Oh, and you have to climb a bunch of other mountains before you can get to Everest, and you have to climb 6 or 7 times back and forth before you actually get to the peak. So don't expect me to climb it. I'll find a different type of Mount Everest to climb. And we also learned about a woman who went through a really tragic experience where she had all of her limbs essentially amputated, and how she had to function and come back from that and still carry on being a principal and showing her students about adversity and how to push through it. So it was a very interesting conference, and I appreciate going to that event and just being there and just hearing their stories. I would like to also mention there was some conversation at the last meeting regarding credit cards and budgets. And so just in general, I just want to point out that we are public servants, and that we should do good things and have good due diligence with the trust that's been given to us. And that we always have to keep in mind that no matter where we're going, what event we're attending, that someone is always watching and someone's always looking, and that we have to always make sure that we're on our best behavior. And I reviewed it, and I know we were all exhausted that last meeting, and I reviewed it. It was a lot of pages. It was 200 pages, and there were some charges on there that I found extremely questionable. And so I hope that in the future that we've taken the steps that were necessary to ensure that that doesn't happen. Because I'm sorry, there were a lot of expenses on there that were just not even, I don't think, can be explained away. So I'm glad that we as a city have decided to be more transparent, and that we're being better about what's happening and what's going on. And that's it. Welcome to my favorite time of the year, the fall. So if you see me putting up Halloween stuff this weekend, please mind your business. Let me live my life. I'm trying to take in all I can from the pumpkin farm. I know. I was trying to get a 6-foot skeleton, and my husband vetoed it. So, please enjoy these next few months as we get into the holiday season. And for the member of the public who asked if I like sitting in the back of the bus, I do not. I actually prefer sitting somewhere in the middle where the least impact is probably going to happen. So have a good night, and thank you guys for coming out.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next, we have closing comments from Mayor Pro Tem Delgado.
How do I follow that? Why do I always have to follow that great stuff? I only have a couple things. The couple of weeks that Tom was in the hospital, we did visit a lot. There was a lot of people in and out of his rooms. He moved a couple times, but there was a lot of people in and out of his rooms. And what that told me was he was a very well-liked man in the city of Moreno Valley and beyond. They put up a card that was probably 2 feet by 3 feet, and that card was full of signatures from a variety of people, not just from the city of Moreno Valley. That man was really loved. So, we are going to close in his honor tonight, but it goes beyond words that we just say, we're going to close this meeting in honor of Tom Gerald, but it goes into relationships. He had a relationship with everybody he met, and not just a hi-bye relationship, but he had an actual, somebody is going to have something to say about Tom and their interactions with him. So when you lose someone, I think that you look back on the time that you did spend with them or him in this instance and reflect back on those conversations and those relationships. So we're going to miss him dearly. He's usually in the front row with his crutches there. I wish we would have had the crutches here to save a seat for him, but he knows what we're doing. As a matter of fact, I think Elena was even read the agenda to him, and yeah, he was starting to get excited. So, and then the last thing I have is a town hall Thursday night at 5 o'clock at the Cupcake and Espresso in the Sunnymead Ranch up on Sunnymead Ranch Boulevard. If you guys from District 2 want to come out and talk about what's going on in your district or city business, please come out. It's going to be a quick one. I'll have some city staff there to answer questions in their areas, and then we'll just kind of wrap it up. So please be kind to one another. I know, like Councilmember Bernard said, it's the fall. I think we start wearing hoodies and we start wearing jackets, and it's kind of like a nice time of year. So please be kind to one another as we go about our business and take care of our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and I will try to keep this short. Just a couple of things here to close the meeting. First, I'm going to ask if staff could help me just to clarify. Maybe it's more appropriate for the city attorney or the city clerk, but a council member from District 1 had a question about meetings and teleconferencing in. Just for her information, if maybe city attorney, if you don't mind, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, and I didn't expect to do this, but since that was brought up, Mr. City Attorney, if maybe you could just clarify the laws and the process around teleconferencing for elected officials.
I don't need clarification around the law. I'm saying it's unfair for you to do something that you don't allow the public to do.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney.
When the governor proclaimed the COVID state of emergency, what he did was suspended the normal teleconference meeting provisions in the Brown Act. When the governor lifted the state of emergency, those provisions went back into effect. So currently, the city council can conduct teleconference meetings. And as long as we have a majority of the council present here in this room participating in the meeting, at least 2 of you can participate remotely, provided that we follow the rules such as posting the agenda at the remote location, allowing the public with access to that remote location, allowing the public to participate in the meeting from that remote location, and identifying where that remote location is in the agenda. So those are the rules that we followed for purposes of tonight's teleconference meeting. The City Council also now has the option of adopting a resolution that allows the public to participate remotely on a normal, routine basis. And the rules that apply to that are a little bit more complicated, but if a resolution is adopted to allow the public to participate remotely, members of the City Council can only participate remotely under those circumstances if they have particular issues such as child care, or they're ill, or they can't make it for some other specified reasons. And so I think that that particular option that is available for cities is an option for the City Council if it wants to allow the public to routinely participate in our meetings remotely.
Thank you very much, Mr. City Attorney. Appreciate the clarification there, and just want to thank staff as well for helping to make the teleconference possible. Wanted to make sure that I was at least in attendance, and I'm actually up in Sacramento for the League of California Cities. I know several of my colleagues will be up here as well, so that's why I had to teleconference in, but appreciate staff for helping to make this happen. And I know the council member was asking about a location. I actually read the address verbatim at the beginning of the meeting, and it's also listed on the front of the agenda if you want to see the address. It's actually printed on the first page of the agenda. So just a couple of other closing comments. I was able to attend the ribbon cutting for the Valley View High School, the STEAM building, and that was a special event. I was accompanied by Councilmember Marquez, but that was special for me because I attended Valley View High School what feels like many, many years ago. And so it was really nice, not just because of that, but because of the actual technology and the amenities that are within that building. If you have a chance to check that out, I highly recommend it. It's just really nice to see that the high school students at Valley View are now going to have access to all these brand new classrooms, and it's just absolutely amazing. So again, if you have a chance to go check that building out, you'll see it right off of Nason. You can't miss it. It's beautiful. It's brand new. So hats off to everyone who made that happen. Also, El Grito, that just passed last week, and every year that event, just like most all of our events, get better and better. The attendance goes up. Had a lot of good feedback, so really, again, appreciate staff for putting that together. I want to give a special shout out to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Karina Cocoletzi, Ms. Villa, the entire Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Mexican Consulate of San Bernardino for coming out and actually conducting the ceremony itself, El Grito, the actual ceremony. So I appreciate the Mexican Consulate and everyone who participated to make it happen. It was truly special. Also want to mention that I know we have a study session coming up in October, and one of the things that it's still an ongoing situation and something that we have to address and figure out ways of addressing it is homelessness in the community. Unfortunately, this is an ongoing issue, not just in Moreno Valley. It's across the state and actually across the country. But here in Moreno Valley, I definitely would like to see us, actually I'm going to propose that we add an item to the upcoming study session related to trying to find a safe parking location or parking lot. It could either be city-owned, like the amphitheater parking lot, or some other city-owned parking lot, or it can be a private parking lot, like on a church or some other piece of private property in the city. But just like Miss Lytle, that we all saw earlier this year, that was working for the school district, wasn't making enough money to afford an apartment, but was making too much to receive certain public services, sleeping in her car with her 4-year-old son. Luckily, we were finally able to find her housing, and she's permanently housed now, but that's one of, I would say, hundreds of people that deal with similar situations. So what I'm looking for is for us to have a conversation about identifying a location, a parking lot, a parking area that would allow for homeless families that are sleeping in their vehicle, in their car, in Moreno Valley, from Moreno Valley, and give them a safe place. We would have security. We would have a nonprofit that actually organizes it and make sure that there's structure and order, would check people in. I don't want to go into too much detail, but I would like for us to at least have a discussion. There are many other things that we definitely should do in terms of addressing homelessness, but I think this is one of the easier steps that we can take toward helping the homeless community. So just want to make a formal proposal, and if I can get a second on this, I'd really appreciate it, to add this item to our upcoming study session in October, so that we can have a conversation about it and see what the various options and possibilities are for that. So with that, hoping to get a second from one of my colleagues.
Councilmember Marcus indicated he's in agreement.
Okay, thank you very much, Council Member. And with that, that doesn't require a vote, I believe. Would it just automatically, now that there's a second, get added to the study session in October?
You are correct, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. So I've already spoken a lot. I'll go ahead and conclude my comments here by adjourning the meeting in memory of Tom Gerald. And just briefly, I knew Tom since I first got involved here in local government in the city, coming to the council meetings, and he was always there. I think if we look at his attendance, his record, he probably beats all of us. And I mean, he was dedicated, he was committed, he was a good man. He had a good heart, and he just wanted to see good for the city. And it's really heartbreaking to know now that he's gone and he's not with us anymore. So, I just definitely want to pay my respects and, just make sure that we honor him and his memory as well. So, with that, we will go ahead and adjourn tonight's meeting in memory of Tom Gerald Sr. And we will adjourn the meeting at 7:32 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.